it has become a culture of our society. When it says 9, people they don't normally respect the time. Please, sorry for the delay. I'm directed to invite representative of EFCC to come to the high table. Then I'm inviting the chairman of the engaging, the executive director of Network for Justice Kano, to come to the high table. I'm inviting the late speaker in person of Dr. Jafar, Faculty of Law, Bayero University, Kano. So, on the course of the deliberation, we are still waiting for representative of Commissioner of Police and representative of the district head of Ghana. I'm inviting representative of Custom to come to the front row. All right. Then already I'm inviting the representative of Civil Defense to come to the first row. And also I'm inviting a representative of NOAA to come to the first row. I'm also inviting representative of Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission to come to the first row. Going by the program of the event, we are now going to have a volunteer to offer a prayer for us, please. Volunteer to offer a prayer for us, please. Sallu ala nabi. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Thank you very much. Please, may I call please the participants to come forward, please, to come forward, please, so that we can be able. Our next agenda is welcoming address by Malam Megari Davao.
Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Network for Justice, I've been mandated to welcome you all to this important discussion about the arduous task of fighting corruption and the promotion of good governance in Nigeria. It is evidently true that today in Nigeria, corruption is endemic, systemic, and pervasive. And while the central government has been held on in waging a total war against corruption, the states and local councils does not seem to prioritize the war against corruption. It also holds true that the fight against corruption is a collective responsibility by all. So on our own part, as Network for Justice, we have previously attempted to engage with major stakeholders like eligible voters, the traditional institutions, the political associations, the political parties, and the fourth estate, all in an effort to move our dear Nigeria in conformity with the dictates of modernity. All in an effort to move our country in conformity with the dictates of post-literate, post-economic, post-industrial, and post-modern 21st century society. Therefore, through today's collaboration with these identified credible institutions here present, it is our belief and conviction that we will be adding value in our quest towards moving forward, aimed at reducing as well as eradicating corruption through this synergy. It is our hope that though fighting corruption is a Herculean task, it is our ardent belief at Network for Justice that we will definitely win through the application of modern strategies that will be discussed during today's synergy with the selected institutions. The task is enormous, and as teachers, we are not going to lecture or try to train, but rather to create a synergy, because we are mostly into research. And while doing that, we will now assume there will be a collaboration between practitioners, that is people in the field, like NSDC, the Nigerian Police, the EFCC, and all other anti-corruption fighting agents. So, thank you once again, and you are welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Megari. And now, I'm handing over the mic to the Network for Justice Chairman in order to continue with the program.
Thank you very much for this honor. Let me take us back a little. But before we do that, let me make a general comment regarding our togetherness here. This is supposed to be part of a routine interactive session between relevant security and anti-corruption agencies and the civil society, so that we can have a robust engagement between ourselves on what the organizations have been doing that we might not know, and what the civil society perceive, the organizations to be doing. In other words, both the civil society, and by civil society I mean the NGOs, the CDOs, the community-based organizations, religion-based organizations, media, and the rest of them, what they perceive these anti-corruption agents to be doing in the fight against corruption and the entrenchment of good governance. So the two critical constituencies of the civil society and the anti-corruption agencies will now have an opportunity for an interactive session, so that we tell ourselves what we have been doing right and possibly what we have not been doing right. And to lead us in the discussion is a scholar, an academic from the Faculty of Law, Dr. Tahiri Jabbar, a young academic of immense repute with a pedigree of anti-corruption and good governance. if there are scholars that are specialists in the fight against corruption and the entrenchment of the values of good governance, then Dr. Airi Jafar is one of them. He is a lawyer, he is an academic, he teaches law at the Faculty of Law. He is a practicing lawyer and he is a civil activist. He is a member of the Network for Justice as well. But before inviting Dr. Jafar to lead us in the discourse, I would like to take us back on the agenda and formally have a brief introduction of ourselves. And I think it will be good to know who are here. Probably by so doing, we will better appreciate the composition. And let me say from the onset that this program was never intended to be a full house program. It is a selection of few civil organizations with the agencies concerned in the fight against corruption. There are some selected few from the media, from the faith-based organizations like the CAN and the Jamaat Council of Ulama. We have few media, then we have some other civil groups, we have representation from the labor, and we have from the professional associations. So let me first start with myself. My name is Bala Abdullah Gadwama. I head the team of the Network for Justice office here in Kano. I do the coordination. Network for Justice is a civil society group that is into anti-corruption and good governance programs. It is ordinarily what you call a D&G group, Democracy and Good Governance Group. That is where the organization is classified. Our office is located at Zoo Road, directly opposite ShopRite. There is one huge Al-Hamsad business complex. That is where the office is situated. So if you wish to engage the organization at any point in time, feel free to come. We look out to have as visitors and possibly as volunteers, people who are active, who are very resourceful, and who truly engage in programs and exercises that promote good governance, democracy, transparency, accountability, fight against corruption, and whatnot. So it is my pleasure to welcome you. It is not for me to invite the members of the high table, but I think to fast track the process, I think they will not mind doing the introduction themselves. For example, I have introduced you, but there might be things I have not said about you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Like he said, I'm Dr. Tahir Jafar Usman. I am a senior lecturer with the Department of International Law and Jurisprudence. And I am a consulting partner and external solicitor to public complaints and anti-corruption. And I have been working on so many papers, seminars, and workshops on fighting graft and an assessment of the role of anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria in the light of what is happening in courts and in the light of the staff strengths and the focus of anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Idris Isiaku. I'm the QIC Head of Public Affairs Department in the EFCC here.
Good morning. I'm Chief Secretary and of course Vianney Grant of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps.
Good morning. My name is Kamal Shehu Garba from Kano State Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission, an assistant superintendent attached to the chairman's special team.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Chief Superintendent of Customs, Nigel Lagley, Staff Officer General Kano.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Shoaib Sayu. Good morning. I am Abba Alkiari Yunusa, Head of Human Resources National Orientation Agency. I am standing in for the State Director.
My name is Anubana Sadiq, best known as former Sani Taylor. I'm a designer by vocation, politician by orientation, consultant by extension, academic and potential PhD.
My name is Ibrahim Mumbayya. I'm from the civil society outside.
Good morning all. I am Peter Fedoje. I'm from Network for Empowerment and Development Initiative Planning and the Program Officer. I'm Virginia Kase, member of Kase Zimila and I'm advocate. Again, Mohammed Madudu, first person to handle the field network from office, first person to supply the chairs and the carpet to that network from
My name is Anas Adu Ahmad, member Network for Resources Kano.
My name is Comrade Hafiz Bishim, Chairperson NLC.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Al-Bakri Mikael. I'm from Hizbah Board, Kano State.
So, my grade level teaching in the Department of Mass Communication, Bayero University, Kano, Network for Justice.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Yahya Umar. I'm from the Secretary of
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Kabir Ibn Yakasai, all the way in city, President Hizbah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this wonderful introduction. And I'm sure you can see that we have a cream of people who have one business or the other with the fight against corruption and the entrenchment of good governance. We have the anti-corruption establishments here. We have particularly the EFCC and the Anti-Corruption Agency in Kano. We have NOAA, whether they have been able to do sufficient mobilization or not, probably in the course of the discussions we'll get to know that. There will, of course, be some impression from the business community. We have representation from Kano State Chamber of Commerce. We have the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, as well as cream of other shades of interest here. Let me re-emphasize that the chair, Kano Civil Society Forum, Malam Ibrahim Waya, is here. He represents the umbrella body of Kano Civil Society groups. When it comes to civil society issues, Malam Ibrahim Waya is what you call Egaya. He represents shade of the various interests. We of course have representation from the government, from the office of the head of service, and I'm sure it will be interesting to have some perspective of the government on what we have been doing. Of course, we have the Kano State Public Complaints and the Anti-Corruption Commission, a representative here. So I will invite Dr. Airu Jafar Usman to talk to us, after which there will be responses from the participants. Then we invite the relevant agencies to synchronize the opinions of the speaker as well as the impression of the participants from the various agencies so that we can have a clearer perspective. Is that fair, sir? Is that, I'm trying to be very democratic. So Dr. Jafar will lead us, he will talk to us, and we'll hear what he has to say. after which we take impression and comments from the Jabbar presentation, particularly as they relate to the performances of the various anti-corruption agencies, after which we will be kind and fair to them to hear what the true situation is. May I now have the privilege to invite Dr. Jafar Usman to make his presentation.
Can I sit as a lead?
Please.
But I think it would be right because
university academics are not to stand.
You are an academic, I think.
Yes, but you can sit down.
No problem. Let me start. Basically, I'm going to talk to us on a more practical, not really an academic point of view. It is evident that corruption is a global phenomenon. It has been a problem to both international organizations, international agencies and institutions, as well as domestic or local institutions and governments. Now, there has been concerted effort at international and local level towards addressing the menace of corruption. Corruption, as we know, is a twin or is the opposite of good governance. If corruption is minimized, there would be better governance. Now, the international efforts are towards establishing institutions as well as legislations. In 2005, at the international level, that is what we call the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. And at the Africa regional level, there is an AU Convention Preventing and Combating Corruption. These two important international treaties or documents acknowledge the role of civil society, because government alone, law enforcement agencies alone cannot fight corruption alone. They require the inputs of civil society. And that is why the framers of these international frameworks and regional documents captured the need to involve civil society organizations. In particular, Article 13 of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption states that each state party shall take appropriate measures within its means and in accordance with fundamental principles of its domestic law to promote the active participation of individuals and groups outside the public sector, such as civil society, non-governmental organization, and community-based organization in prevention of and the fight against corruption, and to raise public awareness regarding the existing causes, gravity of, and the threat posed by corruption. I was so moved when I received the invitation to informally talk about the role of NGOs, CBOs, and in the fight against corruption, and in taking the message to the grassroots, as if the organizers have read Article 13. Because if you look at Article 13, is virtually what is produced here: NGOs, CBOs, media, VIT-based, etc., etc. Also, Article 12 of the AU Convention on Prevention and Combating Corruption, in similar vein, in Article 12, provides that parties work with civil society at large to popularize the convention, to ensure and provide for the participation of civil society in the monitoring process, and consult civil society in the convention's implementation. I just quickly want to refer us back to the last month's lecture presented by former governor of CBN in Lagos. And he actually captured the situation in Nigeria. And he reinforced Article 13 of the United Nations Convention on the need to key in civil society in the fight against corruption in Nigeria. We start looking at the institutions established. We have legal frameworks domestically for the fight against corruption. In fact, Nigeria is one of the African countries that has a very rich legal framework and institutional, if you like it, for the fight against corruption. But what is the scorecard of the anti-corruption agencies? What are the challenges? It is obvious that if you take Northwest Nigeria, how many officers can you find of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission? How many? There is a zonal office in Kano. There is one in Kaduna. Sokoto? No, Northwest. 3. Now look at the staff strength and look at the population of Northwest. The staff strength of EFCC is something to tell you that enough is not or is needed to be done in the area of fighting corruption. Because if you look at the article, it says each state party take appropriate step measures within its means. And sorry to say that Nigeria is a signatory to the UN Convention Against Corruption. So this is an obligation on Nigeria. And what they are to do is, within the fundamental principles of Nigeria's domestic laws, Nigeria is to promote active participation of individuals and groups outside the public sector, such as civil society, non-governmental organizations, in prevention and the fight against corruption, and to raise public awareness regarding the existing causes and gravity of the threat posed by corruption. Now, how have these law enforcement agencies in the fight against corruption involve the civil society in scaling down to the grassroots the message against graft? You also take the independent corrupt practices and other related offenses, the ICPC. How many officers? You look at the Code of Conduct Bureau. You look at other due process requirement agencies. How many are visible, even within the urban centers? Now, the role of civil societies in the fight against corruption is in the following areas: collection, dissemination of information, and its analysis. How have the civil society been doing this important role of information gathering, dissemination, analysis, and scaling it down to the grassroots? Then how also have they been involved in policy development? How often are they consulted by law enforcement agencies, by policy makers? Are their voices heard? Because they are the voice of the voiceless, and they are, as we know the definition of civil society, excluding government interference. It is a group of social persons, institutions, etc., that have a common goal of ensuring good governance in the area of anti-corruption and in ensuring that things are done right. Now, we have a role as a civil society, especially in the context of the new framework established by the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency Act. Now, there has been, Nigeria had problem with the Financial Action Task Force of appending the Nigerian Financial Institution to EFCC, because hitherto it was under the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. However, there was a threat that Nigeria is going to be delisted among the members of the National Action Task Force. As such, one of the requirements was that NFIU must be made independent. And with the current policy of allocating funds directly to local governments, I think the role of civil society becomes important in the area of assessment, monitoring, compliance, and advocacy for good governance at the grassroots. Because the problems at the local level are what is spilling over. If there is good governance at local government level, believe you me, most of these restiveness and security issues would have been less. But unlike what is obtainable in even emerging economies. You go to places like Malaysia, the remotest local government ever you can imagine, you would find every facility, shopping malls in local areas, and all other infrastructure that would not entice any person from the rural area to move to the cities, thereby congesting and raising the level of crimes, etc., etc. So with the Nigerian Financial Action, NFIU Act, and the establishment of the NFIU and the federal government policy in ensuring that local governments receive direct grant from the federation account, and putting a ceiling on the extent of their withdrawals of 500,000 and the penalties for banks, I think there is need, the Nigerian space for monitoring to ensure that these things are complied with. And this is one of the roles of civil society organizations, in ensuring good governance and fighting graft. We need to appreciate that the participation of civil society in governance and the fight against corruption is one of the most important tasks for policymakers. As a neutral person, you can provide better perspectives in terms of what the state and policymakers do. How have we been doing that? There are so many issues with the way to corruption in finances of non-governmental organizations is an issue in this country. Unfortunately, we don't have in Nigeria, I had cost to completion paper about the regulation of non-governmental organizations in this country. No state or federal legislation exists that is particularly towards monitoring the operations of non-governmental organizations. As a student of law, I'm not aware of one, but I would love to be educated if there is one. Funds, and in the light of money laundering and other security issues, there is the need to regulate how we as civil society and non-governmental organizations are accountable in managing our finances, so that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. If you want to invite people to equity, if you want to emphasize good governance, if you want to emphasize action against corruption, you must live as a model that people can look up to. There are so many issues about how we also manage our own finances. So many issues about the finances of non-governmental organizations, especially in Nigeria. I also want to add that civil society organizations are not only stakeholders in governance, but also they are a driving force behind greater international cooperation through active mobilization. How do we mobilize the people that are most hit by the corruption and other untoward financial actions of our leaders? Now, working as a civil society organization, especially in the area of anti-corruption, requires resilience, requires people who have no fear in exposing corruption. And the danger is always when you want to fight corruption, corruption will always fight back. And it will fight you in a way that you may not even imagine. So many colleagues who are involved in anti-corruption have receiving threats from those who have been exposed in committing corruption and other abuse of office and power. So I think we need to also be security conscious. And that is why our work is more of whistleblowing. And as a whistleblower, you must not blow the whistle that it will be louder, that they will identify you. And there is also the need for protection. Now, for the law enforcement agencies, there are so many allegations about how neutral and how objective and transparent we are, or they are, in enforcing anti-corruption laws in this country. There are so many allegations that it is selective, or they are selective in what they do. Now, we also need to appreciate within the legal parlance that we operate a legal system whereby the power and the responsibility or duty to prosecute for crime is not an absolute one. There are qualifications. We operate a constitution whereby the office of the Attorney General or the executive have the last say to prosecute, undertake and discontinue any prosecution. And you know, in politics, there is a payback. And the government of the day may look the other way when it comes to people who are close to it in terms of corruption. And that is the problem of the independence of the anti-corruption agencies themselves. Are they really independent? In the context of Nigeria, there are big question marks on the independence of anti-corruption agencies in the country, truth be told. Just like the Constitution says that the judiciary should be independent, but there are so many clauses to the judicial independence in this country. Once you allow the head of the judiciary to go cap in hand begging for release of funds from the executives, you cannot talk about independence. And that is a problem. And happily, the federal government of Nigeria is moving towards the financial independence of the three arms of government. And we live to see whether that will be implemented to the later. If that is done, we believe that there would be a reduction in compromises, in the alleged compromises in the way and manner things are done in this country at the level of these three arms of government. And why civil society organizations are important is in ensuring, one obvious advantage or character of Nigeria is that we have good legislations. Our problem is implementation. Our problem is enforcement. And that is where the role of the civil society organization comes. You must put them to task. You must always remind them of the mandate and the responsibility they have in enforcing the legislations. We have very good laws. Our problem is implementation. I often argue that even without EFCC Act, without ICPC Act, the penal code is enough if we are going to implement it to deal with corruption in Nigeria. Because there is a particular section in the penal code that says, if you see me living above my earnings, I should be interrogated. But in the context of Nigeria, how many people, you find out at the grassroots, at the local government level. I had a colleague who was involved in the distribution of a finance clerk of a local government. A finance clerk of a local government died and left over 600 million in his account. He's not into farming. That now rice farming is booming. He's not into any of this. He had a room filled up with clothing. What he does is that at the beginning of the year, they saw for him 360 pairs of clothes. Every day he wears new clothes. That is, and if you see the rack of shoes he had, after he died, they brought his salary, and his wife was complaining and was crying. So this is how the world has done. He just died, and this is the salary you are bringing. This is not his salary, because he was living above his earnings. So with those provisions, there are so many people, and civil societies and whistleblowing policies are important policies. If the law enforcement agencies are going to work as expected, we can reduce a lot of corruption going on in the land, and especially in contracts and what have you. The due process, open government. Now, one other thing is EFCC, the federal agencies cannot fight corruption alone in Nigeria. And happily, Section 15, subsection 5 of the Constitution did not place the obligation of fighting corruption on federal government alone. In the case of AG Ondo against AG Federation and 36 others, the Supreme Court was so clear to interpret Section 15. The responsibility of fighting corruption under the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy is on federal, state, and local government. not instruction from the legislature or coming up with policies towards fighting corruption. Unfortunately, it is only Kano State that has a state anti-corruption agency. Some people might argue, is it constitutional for a state to have anti-corruption? Yes, it is. Because fighting corruption is not under the exclusive legislative list. In fact, there was a case that was at the Court of Appeal testing whether Kano State can legislate on corruption in the light of the provisions of the ICPCR. In the light of the issue of the Supreme Court. Now, civil society organizations should key in, at least, in criminology, that's what they call the routine activity theory. That theory says that you need institutions. The mere presence of institution deters, to some extent, criminals from committing an offense. At least, if you look at the rate of the issues raised and the prosecutions at the level of Kano State, you would believe that if there are anti-corruption agencies across the federation, there would have been better synergy in keying into the federal government agenda of fighting corruption and in assisting federal agencies in the fight against corruption. However, there is also a flaw. If EFCC, ICPC, or any federal agency is interested in prosecuting a particular matter, the extent of the state powers stops. Because Section 4 of Section 5 says that wherever there is a conflict between a local state legislation and a federal legislation, or where there is a conflict in interest between a federal agency and a state agency on a particular matter that is not in the exclusive legislative list, the federal government agency takes precedence. This is important. Even where civil society organization realizes that state agencies, if they exist, are not doing the needful in fighting corruption or in prosecuting offenders, you can escalate the information to the federal government agencies that is under the control or interference of state executives. So we need to also appreciate and to advocate the need to have anti-corruption agencies in all the states of the federation. That is important, at least with civil society organizations, with the agencies. If they don't do what is expected of them, we are always ready to take the state governments or any government agency to court under the writ of mandamus to compel them to do their work. At least, even if they don't do it, once civil society organizations are able to publicize, to raise awareness on a particular corrupt activity, at least a point is made. If the state agencies are unwilling, with the social media and with the way things are done today, the federal government agencies might be compelled to key in and take over the matter. So basically, we have a role in ensuring that good governance and anti-corruption is put on the table across the 3 tiers of government and including the grassroots. And happily, Kano State government has 44 offices of the anti-corruption agencies, 46 offices across the state. At least that is also an avenue if we enlighten the grassroots about anti-corruption, about good governance, they can be able to escalate the problems to the local government offices. Because access to these agencies is the biggest problem. You may be in the remotest area, and this life, people are under pressures of economic pressures. How do you expect somebody to travel down or to inform the law enforcement agencies in the cities when he is in the village? So we need to also advocate that these offices should be, the law enforcement agencies' presence or impact should be felt even in rural areas. And I think with this that is why I said I'm just going to talk based on some practical things, not really academic, and maybe in the course of discussions and information sharing, we'll be able to add more. Thank you for all your
Thank you very much, Dr. for this very wonderful presentation. Our problem with academics, university don't, even if they don't intend to be academic in the presentations, they subconsciously